"Good morning, Mr. Collins," the man said evenly, adjusting his tie. "I see you've found your way back to Ridgewood High." Mr. Collins blinked in disbelief. You're the new principal?" "Yes," the man replied, smiling. "Funny how life brings people full circle, isn't it? Once upon a time, years ago, this so-called quiet kid was the target of every cruel joke, every shove in the hallway, every whispered insult that cut deeper than a knife. But now, he was the one in charge, the one writing the rules. Today's story will remind you of one thing. Never underestimate the person you look down on, because the same person you humiliate today might be the one signing your paycheck tomorrow. It all started at Ridgewood High, a kind of place where popularity was currency, and Daniel Brooks was bankrupt. He wasn't bad-looking, just invisible. Always with his books, always quiet, always polite. He had this habit of sitting at the far end of the cafeteria by the window, the one spot where the sunlight hit just right. Every day, he'd eat his sandwich, read his notes, and pretend not to hear the laughter coming from the next table. And at the center of that laughter was Ethan Collins. Ethan was the kind of boy who walked like the hallways belonged to him. Varsity jacket, football captain, sharp jaw, and the kind of smile that hid cruelty behind charm. Teachers adored him. Students feared him. Daniel was his favorite target. "Hey, Brooks," Ethan would shout, snatching Daniel's notebook from his hands. "You writing love letters to your textbooks again?" The hallway would erupt in laughter. Daniel's face would flush red, but he'd stay silent, always silent, because deep down he believed if he just endured it, it would stop someday. But it never did. It wasn't just the teasing. Ethan pushed him into lockers, scribbled on his backpack, once even poured milk over his homework just to see if he'd cry. And through it all, Daniel said nothing. But he remembered everything. It happened during the senior talent show. Daniel had finally gathered the courage to step on stage. He wasn't going to sing or dance, he was going to recite one of his poems. He loved poetry. It was the one thing that gave him voice when words failed. So, when the lights dimmed and he stepped up to the microphone, his hands trembled, but his heart was strong. He started softly. "Sometimes silence is not weakness," and that's when Ethan struck. From the crowd, a fake cough, loud, mocking. Then a voice, "Yo, Brooks, tell us a poem about how it feels to be a loser." The audience laughed. The echo of it wrapped around Daniel like fire. He froze. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. And in that moment, that cruel, humiliating moment, the laughter grew until it swallowed him whole. He ran off stage. Tears burned his eyes as he heard Ethan laughing louder than anyone else. That was the day Daniel promised himself something. He would never let anyone make him feel small again. He didn't know it yet, but that moment, that very humiliation, was the spark that would change his life forever. 4 years after graduation, Daniel Brooks disappeared from everyone's radar. No Facebook posts, no reunions, no trace of the quiet kid who once ate alone by the window. But silence doesn't always mean defeat. Sometimes, it's the sound of someone rebuilding. Daniel worked 3 part-time jobs while studying at night. He didn't go to an Ivy League college, he couldn't afford it. But he had something money couldn't buy: hunger. He studied relentlessly psychology, leadership, education. He wanted to understand people, why they hurt others, how power changes hearts, and how broken systems protect bullies. And slowly, piece by piece, he rose. By 28, he was a respected teacher at a charter school in another city. By 32, he'd earned his doctorate in education. By 35, he was consulting for the Department of Education, advising on school reform and anti-bullying initiatives. He turned his pain into purpose. Every policy he wrote, every speech he gave, carried pieces of that frightened kid who once stood frozen on a high school stage. And the more he rose, the more he realized. His mission wasn't revenge. It was redemption for every kid who'd ever been made to feel like they didn't belong. But life has a strange way of bringing people back to the very place they ran from. Because one morning, as he opened an email from the district board, his eyes widened. "Congratulations, Dr. Brooks. You've been selected as the new principal of Ridgewood High School, the same school where he'd been humiliated, the same hallways that had once echoed with laughter at his expense. He leaned back in his chair, stunned. And then, a slow, calm smile spread across his face. It was time to go home. The first day back at Ridgewood felt surreal. The building looked the same lockers, same old mural in the cafeteria, but everything felt smaller now. Students rushed past him in waves of laughter and chatter. Some nodded politely, others didn't even notice him. He smiled. It reminded him of who he'd been. In the staff lounge, teachers whispered excitedly about the new principal. They'd heard rumors that he was some hotshot reformer from the city, but no one recognized him. Not yet. And then it happened. During his first staff meeting, a familiar voice echoed from the back of the room. "Excuse me, are we really going to have to sit through another outsider's big speech about change?" Daniel froze. That voice, that smug tone. He turned, and there he was, Ethan Collins. Older, broader, but unmistakable. He wasn't wearing a football jacket anymore. He was wearing a teacher's badge. Mr. Collins, Physical Education Department. Life, it seemed, had a sense of humor. "Good to see you again, Ethan," Daniel said calmly, extending his hand. Ethan frowned, clearly trying to place the face. Do I know you?" he asked. Daniel smiled faintly. "Oh, I think you do. Ridgewood High, class of 2006. The room went quiet. A few teachers exchanged looks. Ethan's face shifted. Recognition hit like a slap. "Brooks," he said slowly, You're the new principal?" Daniel nodded. "Yes, looks like we'll be working together." The silence was deafening. After the meeting, Ethan pulled him aside. "Listen, man," he said awkwardly, scratching the back of his neck. "That was years ago. You know how kids are." Daniel interrupted softly. "Do I?" Ethan hesitated. "Yeah, I mean, it was just joking around, you know? No hard feelings, right?" Daniel looked him straight in the eye. "No hard feelings. But understand this, Ethan, there will be no joking around under my leadership. Not with the students. Not with the staff. Ridgewood changes today." That was the moment the power dynamic flipped forever. Over the next few months, Daniel transformed Ridgewood. He introduced student mentorship programs, peer counseling, and emotional literacy training. He visited every classroom, learning every student's name. And for the first time in years, Ridgewood High became a place of belonging, not fear. But Ethan couldn't adjust. He mocked the new systems, calling them too soft. He joked about babysitting the weaklings. Then one day, a student came into Daniel's office crying. It was a freshman, small, nervous, wearing glasses. He said Mr. Collins had made fun of him in gym class, calling him the next Brooks. Daniel sat back, hands clasped tightly. For a moment, he felt the old fire, the humiliation, the pain, but he took a deep breath. "Thank you for telling me," he said calmly. "You did the right thing." That evening, Daniel walked to the gym. Ethan was there, blowing his whistle, shouting orders. "Ethan," Daniel called out, voice firm. "My office. Now." The door to the principal's office shut softly behind them. Ethan crossed his arms, trying to look casual. Daniel stood by the window, the afternoon light casting a sharp outline across his shoulders. "Do you remember what you used to call me, Ethan?" Daniel asked quietly. Ethan frowned. "Come on, man. This again? I told you it was just funny." Daniel turned, his eyes steady but cold. "You called me a loser, a nerd, a waste of space. You told everyone I'd never make it. You pushed me into lockers, mocked my stutter, and made me hate waking up in the morning." Ethan's smirk faltered. He opened his mouth to speak, but Daniel didn't let him. "But you know what hurts more than that?" Daniel's voice cracked slightly, then steadied. "That I believed you. For a long time, I believed every word you said." Daniel took a deep breath. "I built my life around proving people like you wrong. But now I realize I don't need to prove anything anymore." He picked up a report from his desk and slid it across the table. "This is from yesterday's student complaint," Daniel said. "Same behavior. Same insults, different target. Ethan looked down. His face paled. "Come on, Daniel," he said weakly. "It's just kids messing around." Daniel's tone sharpened. "No, it's adults setting an example. And right now, you're setting the wrong one." He circled the desk slowly. "You had years to grow, Ethan, to change, but you didn't. And now you're standing exactly where you put me, on the edge of losing everything because of your arrogance." Ethan's jaw clenched. "You can't fire me." Daniel tilted his head slightly. "Maybe not personally, but the school board will once they see this." He pointed to the file, documentation, student reports, staff witness statements. Every detail. Ethan's face went red. "You think you're some kind of hero now?" Daniel shook his head slowly. "No, just a man who learned to stand up." Ethan slammed his hands on the desk. "You think these people care about your story? About what I said in high school? You're still that same quiet kid." "Maybe," Daniel interrupted softly, "but this time, the quiet kid has the microphone." The silence that followed was heavy. Even the air conditioner seemed to stop humming. Daniel stood tall, steady, unshaken. "Pack your things, Ethan. You're done here." Ethan's voice trembled with anger. "You'll regret this." Daniel's response was calm, almost kind. "No, Ethan, I already did. Years ago." 2 weeks later, the school board confirmed it. Ethan Collins was terminated. The story spread quietly among the staff. Most weren't surprised. Some even seemed relieved. Daniel didn't gloat. He didn't celebrate. He just went back to work, mentoring, guiding, building the school he wished he'd had. But one morning, as he walked through the halls, a student stopped him. A shy boy with braces, holding a notebook. "Dr. Brooks," he said softly. "Thank you. Mr. Collins used to make fun of me. But after you talked to him," he stopped. Daniel smiled gently. "You're welcome. But remember, it's not about stopping the bullies. It's about never letting them define you." That afternoon, as he passed by the old auditorium, the same place where he'd once been humiliated, he paused. The lights were off, the seats empty. He walked onto the stage and looked out into the dark silence. "I made it," he whispered, "not to anyone, not for applause, just for the boy he used to be." The years rolled on. Under Daniel's leadership, Ridgewood High became one of the highest-ranked schools in the district. Bullying incidents dropped dramatically. Graduation rates soared. Every student mattered, every voice was heard. One spring evening at the annual alumni gala, Daniel took the stage. The audience was filled with parents, teachers, and former students. Some now doctors, artists, teachers themselves. "Years ago," Daniel began, "I was told I didn't belong here, that I wasn't enough. But what I learned is that belonging isn't something others give you. It's something you claim. And to every student who's ever felt small, invisible, or unworthy, remember this: silence doesn't mean weakness. Sometimes it's the sound of someone becoming stronger." The audience stood, clapping, some crying. Among the crowd, a familiar figure sat quietly at the back. Ethan Collins. Older, thinner, no longer angry. When Daniel stepped off stage, Ethan approached him. "Dr. Brooks," he said quietly, "you did good. You really did." Daniel nodded. "Thank you." And with that, no resentment, no grudge, just closure. They say revenge feels sweet, but sometimes forgiveness tastes better. Daniel didn't just win over his bully. He won over his past. And in doing so, he taught an entire generation that power doesn't come from control. It comes from compassion. So if you've ever been underestimated, laughed at, silenced, remember Daniel Brooks. Because the quiet ones, the ones no one sees coming, often end up leading the room. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful true-to-life stories. And remember, every act of kindness writes a chapter in someone else's healing.